Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our office at Solace Consulting. And I'm Sławek. I'll be your host tonight. And without further ado, please welcome Hubert, who will say a few words about product owner and Scrum Master, and, well, he'll tell more.
Okay. So, thank you everyone for coming here. I feel like a little, like a small local band playing before a bigger rock star, but I assure you I have some original material, so I hope you won't be disappointed. I wanted to talk to you about a practice that is being perfected at our company, which is working with corporate clients and making people from their organizations the product owner. And this seems kind of obvious to do, but if you ask some people, but if you ask other people, then you can see a lot of difficulties with that. The people from the client's organization are usually not agile, or they are usually not used to work in development at all. But there are also some clear benefits. They should, in principle, know the business and the needs better than you, at least at the start. So just a quick question: can everyone who has worked with a corporate client before raise your hand, or is working with a corporate client now? By corporate, I mean not building a product for masses, but to, for example, for back office or for insurance company. And please keep your hands raised, because I want to ask another question. So now lower your hand if you only have internal product owners. So all your product owners are from your company or they are IT people. So I think the group's also a little bit mixed here. So well, to tell you more about how we do it and what are the pitfalls that we see and what are the areas to grow in that context, I wanted to first of all tell you a little bit about the context. So what we do, why we do it, who am I, and why am I talking to you, and because the context is king in that respect. Because, as I will explain later, the solutions that you need to find are strictly dependent on the context. You not always can use the proper, by the book version, and it's okay. Maybe you can strive to, over time, change your organization, change the client's organization, and do the things more by the book. But there is a certain point when you need to make a compromise, and I will tell you about the compromises we've made. We'll have time to talk about whether those were smart, and hopefully I will share some insight that will be beneficial to you. So yeah, from my perspective, the biggest problem comes from the duality of the client-supplier relation and the product owner versus Scrum Master or developer relation. So I will explain a little bit about that. Then I will very briefly tell you why I think some compromises need to be made and when they need to be made, and when you can like do a little bit of the smelly agile. You are excused to do it. And the main part will be talking about the product owner duties. I will use a little bit of what Angel and of how Angel describes Agile and Agile principles, so there will be some connection between those talks and will be easier to follow. And I will tell you what pitfalls we have found and how we found to overcome them. So a very quick introduction into our company. We are a company founded 17 years ago by 2 consultants in Warsaw, and we've grown exponentially since that. At the beginning, we are mostly doing implementation. That's what we are doing now. At the beginning, we are mostly doing business advisory and optimization projects and so on. But our growth also is paired with movement into more IT. section, and now we mostly do core systems and front-end and mobile applications for insurance mostly, and also banking in Poland and in Europe. So yeah, that is our scope of activity, and that's why we are now more known as software development company. And when it comes to how we like to make business, it is, oh, I hope that's not, okay. Because we are not like a top company in terms of software development, in terms of consulting when it comes to brand recognition. We are not like Accenture or UI. We have a particular way of doing business, by which I mean we believe we can grow only by building long-term relationships with clients. And that is built upon some other values, which include being absolutely brutally transparent with our clients, which includes not taking projects that we cannot deliver, which includes stability and growth of the team, because the team is now our biggest resource, because most of our of what we do is services. And basically this is why, like 5 years ago, when we started cooperating with a supplier of a core system from United States, and they were working Agile, we saw Agile and we saw how it fits our values, so we decided to switch to working that way. And now, like, our main modus operandi is that we have a team consisting of Scrum Masters and developers that are usually from our company. And we have, those developers can be like analysts, designers, testers, developers, I mean programmers. But what we do, and we always try to do, is that we include the product owner and subject matter experts from our client side. So I don't remember us doing a project where a product owner was from our company. We try to do more. I mean, we also try to include people, developers from our client company, because that facilitates them taking over the maintenance of the project, the system after we've implemented it, and so on. But at least we try to include the business from the client side, and that's where the tricky part comes in. And yeah, just for the record, I used to be this guy for like 3 years. Now, for a year, I'm a product owner at an internal project where we develop our own software, our own product. So I have kind of the both perspectives on that matter. That's an ugly slide, sorry. But this outlines the biggest problem that comes from that structure that you've seen earlier. And this is that you have this guy who is called, we call him Scrum Master. We can discuss later if that's an appropriate term for him and if he really does Scrum Master work. But we have someone from our company that is the Scrum Master, and we have someone from the client's company that's called the Product Owner. So the Scrum Master, they act in many roles. I mean, they have many backgrounds, and the conflict between those relations is what produces the problems that need to be overcome in order for the Scrum to be efficient. So this guy usually is, his background is that he's either a business analyst or a developer. Whether this guy is, or girl, is usually a subject matter expert from the client side. He works in operations, he works in one of the departments at the client. He's usually like a specialist, because you'd want someone from the client's company who sets the priorities on your project, in your Scrum, to be like a director of a department, and that's ambitious, and they never have time. So they always send someone who knows the business, but usually is like a specialist. And but when I say you, I'll mean the Scrum Master or the consultant who has to work with the client. You are a business consultant. You come to the company and you advise, you listen, you find solutions, but there is the clear distinction here is that he will have to live with the software, and you will leave after some time from the company. So that puts a particular dynamic between you two. Then there is the Scrum Master to Product Owner relation, which I will expand later. But by this I mean the short term of the product owner, the delivery, the product, the feedback on how the iterations are going, the feedback on how the product looks like versus the role of trying to long-term improve the team, your organization, and the client's organization. And last, and this is like the relationship that collides most with the previous one, and I will explain why in a second, is the supplier versus client role. Because whether you want it or not, whether you want to put like consultant pants and say, I do whatever is best for your business, I don't care about my company because my company believes that your value is the most important, you will always be perceived like the supplier, and some demands will be made of you that wouldn't be made of a Scrum Master otherwise. So, whenever you want to solve those issues, and whenever you want to make compromises between the by the book way of doing it and your way of doing it, I believe that you have to always guard the agile principles, and you have always remember and been cognizant of whether you're still making them work, or if you are compromising some of them by doing things suboptimally. So the way I like to summarize them, and the way Angel summarizes them, is that Agile is about early and continuous delivery of value, and this on projects like implementation projects like we do is mainly constrained by the fact that we do like 7 months releases, we do core systems, so all the earlier delivery of value needs to happen inside the release, and the software is not always releasable in the middle of the release, if that makes sense what I'm saying. But this puts most constraints on this part, and then the adapting to customer needs part, it's what in principle should work the best when you have a client that is a product owner, because he is the customer, so he tells you what he needs and you can adapt to it. But this is the part that people take the most for granted, and I feel like this is the part that falters if you don't guard it, because there are some problems with perceiving your product owner and your client, I mean the corporation that you're doing the project for, as the same entity. And they are not, and I will explain why and how to cope with that in our experience. And those two parts are like more of the part that the product owner needs to care for, or where he has the most influence. But you, as the someone who is bringing Agile to his company, who is coaching him, who is doing the project, you need to at least support him in those parts and know whether he's doing a right job. And the lower part is what Scrum Master has more control on. So that's collaboration, that's continuous improvement. And this is what Angel will be talking in the second part, so I won't repeat it now. So let's delve into what product owner should assure on the project, and one by one I will try to tell you what we found that they fail to do, or what are the difficult parts, and how we found to be able to support them in that regard. But before we do that, I have a slide that I forgot, which basically tells you that the solution to the problems is not always the one that is the best solution is not always the perfect solution. That's how I will put it. So it depends on mostly it depends on your capabilities. So if you are, I don't know if you followed Angel's work, but if you are a Scrum mom, then you probably can do some things that a Scrum Jedi would do. So there are some things that would be perfect. For example, if you want to score a goal in football, you can look at Messi and try to do exactly what Messi does and look at his footwork, but at a certain point we will find out that you will kill yourself probably by doing that. And there are some principles behind what he does that you can try to replicate, but the exact solution isn't the one that you can implement necessarily, and that's okay. And part of doing agile transformation and part of becoming more agile is, in my opinion, coming to terms that you are not perfect and knowing what you cannot implement. So this also comes to your team, which is constructed both from your people from your company and people from the client's company. It comes to your goal that you want to achieve, and it also very importantly comes to what your product owner is capable of doing. And if your product owner is a person from business, and by business I mean from operations, and by operations I mean he's used to running the business, not thinking about how to implement tools to improve the business, then you have to find what his shortcomings are and how you can help him improve it in that part. So, what product owner does need to do on the project? What does he need to assure for the Scrum team? The first thing, which in principle should be the easiest one, is the comprehension. So he needs to assure that the development team understands what the business, the needs of the business, which usually is back office. So he needs to assure that they understand the processes, or at least what is the end product is. The second part is the prioritization, and this will be the part I will spend probably most of my time on, because this is the part that deceptively should be easy for a person from inside the organization to do, but there are certain problems with that if you are not careful. Then we have the validation part, which by which I mean the product owner needs to assure that whatever we produce in iterations gets some feedback from the people that will use it. It will be looked upon in the context of the project goals. And the last part is the information. So there needs to be like a clear information of what the progress in the Scrum is, on the project is, and that should not involve developers preparing spreadsheets and writing how much work they have done. It needs to come more organically. So let's start with comprehension. This should be the easiest one, and because the client's employees usually know their business, but that's not always true. You have to remember that whenever you work with someone from the business, from the client's organization, he knows a smaller part of it. He knows and what I found most strange is that maybe it's obvious, but he doesn't even often understand why the client is doing the project. So, for example, I've visited a project that we did for a client in Belgium, and on that project, we had to learn what the business case for the project is, understand why the project is being implemented, and then talk to the product owners who the client has assigned to help us with delivering the maximum value, and to basically teach them what are the goals and how they, in their small Scrum, how they can help to achieve that goal. Because the sad part about implementing systems for back office is that they are not always done because you want to provide the optimal usability for the user. Very many of the business cases I've seen are mostly about replacing old technologies that are not scalable, that are not maintainable, that cause problems with reporting. So in that context, knowing why the project is done and how to achieve that goal, and knowing how the business looks like now are two separate things. So there needs to be some kind of support for this person to look slightly more in the future, and maybe to coach him, or maybe to help him communicate with his sponsors. What I've also found very useful is at the beginning and phases of project, you need to assure that there is a communication within the client's organization, and this is sometimes far more important than the communication between the client and your team. So those are like the most important points on that. You also sometimes when you implement certain, I'll put it that way, from product owners who have come from your organization or have come from IT background, we sometimes take for granted they understand the technology, they can do certain things. And when you have a product owner who is from business, then it's not always the case, and you have to help him with that. So, and this also follows to the prioritization part. So the biggest problem with clients prioritizing their own features is that the client's organization is not monolithic, and whenever you have a Scrum, and even if that Scrum does a very specific thing, for example, it implements product in insurance, behind this Scrum, there might lay like 4, 5, 6 different departments that each have different goals. So and it also ties back to the part I said about the business case for the project, or the business case is the dirty word when we talk about Scrum. The reasons why this initiative was chosen. From what I've seen, the most successful product owners are the ones that have the least organizational units behind them. And when they have like 5 or 4 different organizational units, they tend to either tell you everything is a blocker, everything needs to be shipped first, nothing can change. And if you don't help if you don't coach that person, if you don't understand why he's doing that, then you might end up doing some not the most important thing for the beginning of the project, and then losing some of the value that you could have provided if the project, for example, runs over schedule, which they tend to do. The second thing is what I've explained. You have to remember that the employee's goal is the department goal is different than the goal of the company. Good companies tend to have them aligned, but you cannot always count on implementing projects for the best companies. And also, when it comes to this part, you have to remember that the person you are working with will live in this in the mess that you've done together. So you'll need to be able to take part of the blame to provide him some comfort. You'll need to be able to tell him if things come out suboptimally, and your friends from your client's organization will be unhappy, which they tend to do with change. You can always blame it on me, and I will try to expand upon it later. But removing the fear from your partner, from your product owner, and gaining his trust is the key to successful cooperation with a product owner who is from the client side. The last part is that when we implement core systems, we implement things for back office, we usually have something that is in place. So the minimum valuable product as perceived by the client's organization is something that is what they have plus something, and that's what they have may be like a system written in COBOL that they have then developed, upgraded for 20 years. So what you will deliver in the early stages of development will be by definition not better than what they've done. So they will say this is not viable. But from my experience and from our experience, you still need to work in the minimum viable product paradigm. You need to think what is the valuable stage of a product that I can develop, even if it's not the better that the thing on production, because the fact that at every point of the project you will need to say what we've developed so far is the most valuable thing that we could have developed in this time, and the pivot that we make at that point can happen because we don't have anything that is crucial that is left over. And this is the thing that you need to work with your product owner to assure. So yeah, a good thing would be, this also is the problem of validation, because whenever your product owner, you say to your product owner, let's show the product to people from your department and see if they like it, he will say, no, never do that. Don't show them the product until he is finished. And so you will need to convince him, and he will need to find a way together with him to convince the people from the client's organization to look at the product favorably and to try to give you input, even though it's not what they imagined before the project. Hopefully it will be until when you release it. So yes, and this part I will skip because it refers mostly to the fixed price, fixed schedule, fixed everything type of the contracts that some of especially Polish customers like to do, and it's obvious that we don't need. People tend to not want to show the product because it will cause delays, but we know that's only hiding the problem and putting it for the future. So you need to take care that the product is shown indeed at every stage of the development, after every iteration, not only when the product owner stops being ashamed of it. And when it comes to the information, there is the obvious problem that you and your product owner belong to different organizations that have different interests in this project, and in order to make it successful, you basically need to make your reporting and his reporting consistent. And he will most often not understand tools like Jira. He will most often not understand things like sprint burn downs. So you will need to explain to him and make sure that you and your product owner have the same understanding of how the project is going, so your organization and the client's organization have also the same understanding, because as soon as they diverge, you tend to have a problem. And the tool, I've put a lot of problems here, but I've only a few solutions. But the main solution for each one is as this. This was obvious to me before I started working here as a psychologist, but only after someone told me it's in the setting of business, then I understood that it applies not only to animals, but it applies to everyone. Is that the root of all aggression is fear, or the root of all difficulty making and stopping the change is out of fear. So if your product owner from the client's organization is making problems, is making demands on you, is being unreasonable with your team, that usually means that there is something that he fears. And the solution of that is to understand what he fears and to help him with that. And the most common thing would be his own incompetence. And by incompetence, I don't mean harshly. I mean, he is usually not someone who is equipped to do product ownership, because it's a tough job. So you need to help him. You need to say, okay, if you forget about something, we can add it later. Because, for example, your product owner will be afraid that you, as the supplier, will take advantage of him not knowing the process. You will do something suboptimally, and then he will have to take the blame inside the organization. So this is the fear, and overcoming the fear and understanding what your product owner lacks is the biggest step towards forming the successful, the good combination that can manage the project, which, at least in our experience, is the SMPO developer. And by SMPO developer, I mean a product owner from a client side who is then supported by someone who knows Agile and knows Agile principles and has a bit of empathy and can help him, and maybe can even take over some of the responsibilities. And by the responsibilities, I don't mean responsibilities per se, but for example, your product owner probably cannot slice stories. But what you can do is you can say, I will slice the stories for you. I will take care of the technical interdependencies, but I will explain to you why I did it the way I did. You will, and when you gain trust in me, and you will accept what I've did, then we can form somebody that can make those decisions, and they can make this thing work. And I know that there is a huge problem with that. I know that the product owner should not be a committee, should be a single person. And probably we can discuss it on the Q&A panel later, but I believe that as long as the principles behind Agile are maintained, and as long as he takes the responsibility for what you do, and he trusts you enough and you trust him enough to work together, then this solution is good enough. It's not perfect, but for those kind of projects, for this kind of organization, it might be good enough. So to summarize, what I've found in my work to be the most important things when I work with product owners from a client is that find out what he can do and coach him to do it better. So he might he might understand the business. He might even know how to think not in terms of the business as is, but how it needs to be, and you can help him with that. There are something that he cannot do, and he will not feasibly be able to learn within 7 months how to do it. And however harsh that is, you will need to take over the labor from him. But you still need to make him cognizant of that you are doing his job, basically. So you say, I'm prioritizing the features this way because of what you told me earlier. You should be doing that, but I'm helping you. Is that okay for you, for this story to be put above this story? And this is the rationale. And as long as you and him accept that you are not perfect, and as long as you and him trust each other, you can make him an effective decision maker. And I believe most of the problems that this kind of system creates are the problems that would happen kind of anyway, because anyway you will have the client making those priorities, but you won't have anyone in your Scrum that is from the client's organization that has the vested interest in the project, in the Scrum running well. And if you have this person, if you trust this person, then you can make change in your client's organization faster and in a more efficient way. So that's basically it from my talk. I will be happy to take questions during the question and answers phase, but I'm sure that they will be used on Angel. But anyway, you can contact me by my mail. Thank you again.